Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. My name is Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 91. Today, we are talking to a very cool director of the fan film TK630 with our very special guest, Mr. Brendan H. Banks. Thank you for joining us, Brendan.
Of course, guys. Thanks for having me.
And of course, we have the great and powerful and illustrious Mr. Todd Hoffman.
The adjectives keep on going, and I really appreciate that, Aaron. I will continue to add this to my business card, all these wonderful adjectives. So thank you.
You have to get a little scroll.
Yeah.
That unwinds and all your adjectives and predicates are there.
Exactly.
So,
no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. So Heather, of course, has the night off. So we will be burning a candle for her, but she'll be back before it's...
We'll try to throw in some Ewok love today, for sure.
Yes, Ewoks and droids galore. So
yeah.
You can check us out on social media at WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. You can email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. You can catch our entire back catalog of episodes at www.wstrmedia.com. And now you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure you don't miss our next live episode. That's youtube.com/WSTRmedia. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial over at www.audibletrial.com/WSTR. There's over 425,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, MP3 player. Which one are you going to pick? Which one is for you? You decide. And hey, if you decide you don't like that 30-day free trial, cancel it. No questions asked. You get to keep whatever book you pick, and everybody wins. So
it's free. It's all free.
It's all free, and it helps support the show. So please head on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR for your free audiobook today. Secondly, brought to you, bringing the podcast to you today is teespring.com/stores/WSTR Media. That's right. We've got merch. And just in time for fall, we've got a hoodie added to our lineup. So you want to rep your favorite podcast, or maybe this is the least favorite podcast and you want to wear it ironically. Hey, nobody's stopping you.
No one's stopping you. That's right. So
go on over to Teespring, spring.com/stores/WSTR Media to pick up your WSTR t-shirt or mug or hoodie all today. So wanted to speed read through that ad read because we've got a very interesting conversation today. So later we've got Star Wars on TV, the big boss staying around, and SNL. But first, let's get over to our main topic.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right. We have got here a very handsome young man by the name of Mr. Brendan H. Banks. Brendan, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm super excited.
So, okay, Brendan. So why don't you kind of give us a little bit of background of who you are, what you do, what's going on in your world?
Yeah, totally. So my name's Brendan. I work in film and television and video stuff. Live in New York City. I've been doing this kind of work for about 10 years now. I picked up a camera when I was in middle school, stole my parents' camera. It was one of those kind of kids and just sort of ended up falling into it as a career. So that's kind of what I do now. I work mostly as a cinematographer. So my job is in charge of lighting, the camera teams, and really just helping take whatever a director has in their head and represent that visually. So that's a lot of what I do.
Cool. What films influenced you early on in getting into what you do?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I actually have to credit my brother for me becoming any sort of cinephile. Like he just fell in love with movies and was just watching movies constantly. And he's 3 years older than me, so I wanted to be cool and just watch whatever he watched. And yeah, I mean, I loved really, really big, expansive worlds. And I liked the little stories that were told in there. So I think that got me super interested. And then, making like bad skate videos with friends and then realizing that you can like tell a story was like kind of neat. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it started off as skateboard movies.
And I want to be super clear. Like I didn't have any good friends. So it was trying to take people who were really, really bad at something, but loved doing it and trying to make it look cool. So I think that's how I learned some movie magic early on.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's awesome. So like what kind of films did you like as far as that, like big budget kind of films? What really, you're like, I want to do that?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it ended up just being like time spent watching things. Like I can't even tell you the number of times I waited like 2 days to re-download the Matrix lobby scene shootout on LimeWire, like way back in the day, and like watching it slowly tick across the screen to download, and then you had to delete it because it took up too much space. So I really liked anything sci-fi, anything with a big story, and I really, really liked anyone who's sort of maybe not a true anti-hero, but just like true underdog. So I definitely think that I mean, again, like things like the Matrix. I was weirdly like a huge Apollo 13 fan as a kid too, because I like love space. Like I totally wanted to be an astronaut and things.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it was mostly big budget stuff, and then later on I got more interested in like art house or indie. I know a lot of people fall into it there, but that was also my favorite movie in high school was Brick, which was directed by Ryan Johnson, the much debated
Ryan Johnson, nice
director, currently in the Star Wars universe.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we'll get the Last Jedi in a little bit for sure. Now, did you officially go to school?
I didn't start out that way. I sort of
film?
ended up. I technically have a bachelor's degree in visual arts with a specialization in film and video. But I went to school at Fordham University up in the Bronx. They're known for a great general education, and that's like, once I realized I wanted to do this, I wanted to try and apply somewhere else, but it just wasn't going to work. So I opted to just stay in the city, continue my education, and I just got super lucky that there was like a couple of weeks later a movie filming on my campus, and I like convinced them to give me a job on that. Waiting to get bumped up to the role where I could get coffee for people. There are roles below that, surprisingly.
Yeah. Could you kind of explain like how one gets into the film industry? Because there's many different avenues. Obviously, a lot of people are most know big Hollywood productions, but there's so many different other things, from commercials to TV spots. So can you kind of tell us like where you got your feet wet and that kind of thing?
Yeah, totally. I always made videos on my own. I was interested. I taught myself how to edit. I taught myself how to shoot. I mean, we're like turn on a camera and know how to hit record and not mess it up level sort of things. Yeah. I think I got really lucky too, because forums got really, really big in the mid early 2000s. I mean, they were throughout the history of the internet, but people were flocking to them pre-YouTube. And that was just a great training ground, things like that. So I got involved with someone on a forum who I realized, holy crap, I live in the same town as you. And I grew up just outside Philadelphia. And he was working on a short film over one of the summers between college, between freshman and sophomore year in college. So I got a couple days on that. I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is really, really interesting. I mean, it was someone with a camera with like 5 friends, and I was given a broomstick with a microphone taped to it. I was like, this is cool. And so when I went back to school, I saw this movie shooting on my campus. And honestly, I had gotten the cell phone number of my film professor like a couple days before. And I called him at like 7 a.m. And I was like, hey, get me on this. Like, I want to do it. And he was like,
right, I want to do this.
And then, I actually got a call from the president of the university a couple minutes later being like, hey, this is really weird, but they told me you have to be at this location in under 5 minutes if you are serious about it. And so I just
run, Brendan, run.
Yeah. I was on the cross country and track team in college, so I ran as fast as I could, and I just skipped my classes for a week. And I got really lucky. I technically interned on that movie. It's called Solitary Man. It had Jesse Eisenberg and Susan Sarandon and Michael Douglas. It was kind of a big film. And
wow.
Yeah, the person who I reported to, their position is called Key PA, Key Production Assistant. He took a liking to me, and I just begged him. I texted him every day for a couple of weeks after that, just like, you got anything? You got anything? And he finally was like, oh my God.
Persistence.
Okay.
Like a druggie, you're like, I want more.
Yeah, exactly. So then I went on to just be an additional person. So, they have staff members and things like that. So when they have a day where they have 800 extras and they need 200 people to just stand around and tell people where to go, my job was like standing around telling people where to go. So I did that for about the next year. And then I got an internship at a comedy website called College Humor. And I worked there for a number of years. And so it just kind of fell out of that one spot. And now I work mostly in doing commercial and branded content for the web. So if you follow Now This or Thrillist or The Dodo, you've probably seen something that I've shot. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. That's great.
Right on. So it was persistence and luck and being prepared to do something. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was still in my pajamas when I got that phone call. I was like, oh my God, here we go. So yeah. yeah. You never know, right? You never know. That's awesome.
Exactly. So all right. So we if you haven't seen it, but put the podcast on pause. Go watch TK 630. So now that you've done that, now Brendan, kind of tell us what TK 630, how you got involved, why you shot it, all that kind of stuff. Like give the skinny on it.
Yeah, totally. So I've been working with one of my friends, Josh Rubin. He's a writer, director, actor. And we had been working creatively on some projects. We basically decided that X amount of however much money we make, doing work, we would save and squirrel away to do personal projects together to try and practice, get our work out there, get our name out there, that kind of thing. This was right around the time when I'm trying to remember the exact timeline. I think The Force Awakens had just come out, and Disney announced that they were going to sort of re-sanction the Star Wars Fan Film Awards. And that was a really cool thing because it started out, and I ended up kind of getting into the weeds with the history of it. I believe that it started out as entirely a fan-made thing, people sharing VHS tapes, going to some basement to check these out. And it was very community-driven. I think a lot of people have seen the amazing fan film Troops, which is the parody of Cops, which is just put the fan film awards on the map, I think. And
it's still one of my favorites. It's so good. You think
that sometimes these things wouldn't age well, but that one is just pitch perfect.
It is.
So anyway, I saw that they re-sanctioned it, and over the history of time, it was sanctioned. It was not. It was sanctioned. It was not. They were pursuing IP infringement. They weren't. There are all those different things with Disney kind of gobbling up Lucasfilm. We're wondering, okay, cool, this is an opportunity,
right?
So that sort of motivated Josh and I to start talking about a story. I really wanted to do something from the side of, from more the empire or imperial side, that wasn't in any way being apologist or whatever. It's just there's a human story. There are a lot of these people who work there. Again, it's kind of funny because we'd started coming up with this idea and The Force Awakens come out, and we're like, oh, cool. They started their movie with that same concept. Cool. So,
right.
Yeah,
cool,
exactly.
Thanks.
But we realized that our story would be more interesting. You always want to have, for us figuring it out, you kind of want to have a Jedi in there. So we just had these ideas floating around, and then Josh said, hey, we got to call in my buddy Charlie. 1, he's just a phenomenal writer. 2, he is the biggest Star Wars fan that you'll meet. So and
that's a good title to have. Yeah, that's a good title to have.
Fandom. But he is, he's the right co-worker to be with, because you're like, hey, can I make sure that I'm spelling Jedi right in the copy? And he's like, it's always capitalized. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. You got it. So yeah, so we sort of just like slowly threw some ideas at the wall and came up with this, what if he meets someone who, kind of always has the upper hand on him, but isn't using it for any sort of reason. And then we realized, wait, maybe she can't communicate, all these different things. So slowly we went from just rough ideas into kind of what you guys ended up seeing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then where did you shoot the film at?
This is all shot in and around Woodstock, New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So upstate New York, the first shot is this big vista that we tilt down on, and that's actually at the top of Overlook Mountain up there.
Okay.
So we just me, Josh, and the producer and costume designer, Sean, we just hiked up for about hour and a half, 2 hours, got 4 shots at sunset, and then hiked back down. But yeah, so that was like a big one. And then a lot of it was, there's some woods right behind Josh's parents' house.
Yes.
And that's where almost everything else is there. We had more shots, that we didn't end up using in the montage, but they were like, a half mile away, whatever away. And then we got just rained out of 2 full days of production on it. And that led to us shooting in that cave location, which was,
where was that cave
I believe it's in Rhinebeck, New York. It's a neighboring town. It's about 40 minutes away from Woodstock.
Okay.
And it was totally just because our producer was like, hey, I used to work for the New York State Parks Department. I know about this cave. We're not supposed to go do this thing in it, but I think I know how we can go and shoot it. So we just put only what fit in backpacks, and we walked in with these overly sized backpacks, like a quarter of a mile to this cave, and then quickly set up lights and then shot exactly. Luckily it was
nothing
still
to see
raining,
here,
so whoever was supposed to be patrolling was just not super interested. You're allowed to go in the cave, but I don't think you're allowed to spend 3 hours shooting in a cave. But
yeah, nice. That's cool. So how about now, who did you get to act as the scout trooper and
so that was actually Josh. Him being creative partner, but he's most studied in acting. That's something he's been pursuing for the longest. He directs and writes, and he's fantastic at both. But he really was I was like, dude, I want to make you an action hero, and that's a little bit bumbling, but an action hero. And he's like, okay, because he usually gets the goofy friend. So he was very excited to do that. And then he's been acting for quite a while. So he reached out to his I believe it's his agent, and was like, hey, I wonder if we know anyone. No one came up for the role of the little girl. And turns out his mom texted him and was like, hey, I just caught up with blah, blah, blah. Their daughter Starla is interested in acting, I believe is how it goes. And Josh was like, oh, we should put her on tape. So they just shot us over a little iPhone video of her just reacting to what she would be reacting. And it was just like, whoa, she's very, very good. I know many, many high-end professional actors who don't bring it like she does. So that was very, very cool to work with her.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
And so understated. She was very, very good.
Yeah, she's definitely one of the highlights of the film. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So kind of, I was going to say, you even had some, I noticed some wipes that you did. Was that by choice? You wanted to kind of make it still kind of Lucas-y,
I felt, this was funny too, because it was after Force Awakens. So, as we're going through the editorial process, we're figuring out what works and what doesn't. I had planned some of the moves were planned to have wipes in them, so you'll feel it moving left to right or coming from the center out. But you can always tweak that if you don't like it later. So I planned for it being maybe it's too much, maybe it's not.
Right.
And Force Awakens had certain motifs and languages that they were using throughout that were reminiscent. Some were new, things like that. It was a little bit of a gray area. And then it felt really nice to see sort of Rogue One enter the picture, as post-production took 2 years on this project. That entered the picture, and I was like, okay, now I feel like it's opened up. We can do what we want, and I want to do these wipes. But I think I used 2. I think it was just 2 wipes.
Yeah.
There's a point where we were like, more wipes. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Not every time. You gotta like one is enough. Two is pushing it, but I think it worked. So
you'll spoil it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they usually say don't use the wipes, but George has always done that in all his films, and Ryan picked it up too in Last Jedi. He did a couple wipes as well. So yeah, I thought that was a nice touch. I was like, oh, okay, then they understand what's going on here, Okay. So
that's very cool to hear, because there were definitely even when it came down to do the final export, I was like toggling on and off the first wipe, just like, I don't know if this is are people going to turn it off right here? So yeah, I mean, and then where in the editing process did it come to, like, you want to make it around, because it's about almost 10 minutes, so did that come in the process, like you want to try to make it as short as possible, or where were you trying to aim for when you kind of started off with this project? That's a great question, and that was still being debated till like the week before it came out. We were like way past finishing editing it, but it was, so the Star Wars Fan Film Awards has a 5-minute hard, very, very hard, no exception limit.
Okay.
And as we started writing the story and working on it, it's 12 pages, it's 14 pages. A lot of it is like, and then they dive over here and blasters, whatever. So a lot of that happens very quickly, but I was like, there's no way we're going to make 5 minutes, but this is the story. So we're just going to have to abandon the concept of the Fan Film Awards. And then every couple months, someone would text on our like TK630 thread, like, are you sure we don't want to try? And I'd be like, no, I don't. I don't want to cut. Like, I know, but I don't. And ultimately, we just, it's always like, as just cut all the fat, get to it as quickly as possible. But I think by doing that, we earn certain moments. Like, I wanted it to feel slow and like you're really descending into the world before anyone speaks to each other. So that early montage, I'm sure we lost tons of people who jumped out at a certain point in the video, but that's okay, because I think that like the people who stuck around felt like it was earned, or it ended up being worth it, which was the goal.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like, you kind of get world building without a lot of dialogue, which I feel like is a good thing. I feel like Pixar does this all the time. Like, they do, like Up. Like, they don't have to say anything, and you already got like this world building, and it's fantastic. And I feel like I got that with this film as well. Obviously, I want to ask, like, where did the peeing stormtrooper on the tree come from?
So in every personal project that Josh and I have been working on, he ends up writing or requesting a write-in of someone peeing, and it's always appropriate, which is funny. I don't know why we tend to characters with that, but that was also one that was like a little bit highly contested in the edit. I was not necessarily a fan of it for a while. I loved it while we shot it.
Okay.
I loved it in the first cut.
Yeah.
I hated it from there on, and then. But luckily, that's why you work with a team. And it was just because everyone else was like, dude, it's worth it. And if you hated it the last second, we can cut it. But my editor, Vincent Welch, who I worked with before, he was like, he really brought like a very concrete reasons why it's like you end up relating to the character. It's also something we haven't seen before. Like, they don't really acknowledge.
Yes.
I don't think that they acknowledge bodily fluids for humans in any of the Star Wars universe. I think it's just for droids with like some sort of liquid, and then animals. So I thought, oh wow, that's interesting. Maybe we should. So
well, I think, I mean, go ahead. No, go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead.
It's an interesting way. Go ahead, Todd. All right. I thought it was interesting in that the different ways that you get us to side with the scout trooper. Whereas normally he's the enemy, you've got to win us over, get us on his side, and give him some sympathy. And so I noticed, he's isolated, he's alone, he's lost, he's scared, especially with the cave, and he's got his weapon out, he's looking around and tries to hightail it out of there, and then he's vulnerable too with doing his business against a tree, and so.
Yeah,
it's kind of odd, but I think it works.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's definitely that was definitely the thing, and the other part of that for me was in the edit, making sure we don't see his face until we feel like we're comfortable with him. We get used to the idea that you see a scout trooper when he's peeing against a tree, his helmet's down on a rock or down on the tree, I think, but you're just seeing the back of his head. And I think that it was important to like build a connection with this person wearing a uniform, as opposed to just seeing them as the uniform, because we like see the stormtroopers. They're like, okay, cool. They're going to run and clumsily miss the shot and then get hit and fly over, and you just have to like sort of tear that down.
Yeah, I was going to say, cause like, I'm part of the 501st. So I have a TK, I have a stormtrooper outfit. You can't pee in it, man. So Scout Trooper, no, you can't. So that's accurate. I'm going to give you that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I know that there are some inaccuracies. I think even when it came down to the TK thing.
I was going to be that nerd. I was like, it's actually TB, but I don't want to, insult you,
No, it was actually one of like it definitely wasn't the first, but it was like top 3 or 4 comments on Vimeo when I'm like refreshing it.
Oh,
and I was like, no. And it's funny because I could have then just changed it because I didn't put the title in anywhere in the film itself. But I was like, we're real committed now. Yeah. And like that person pointed it out. I don't know. It was a very interesting choice, but I definitely had a really funny text to Charlie being like, I thought you were our resident nerd on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, cause again, I know that because I'm part of the 501st, and each like Imperial officer has one, like, Sith Lord is like SL, but the biker scout, the biker spout is like TB. Yeah.
TB.
But but it kind of works in the same way because again, a general audience doesn't really know that, and the only thing they've actually heard on film is that if they're even paying attention, it's us Star Wars nerds that like, oh, TK, I understand what a TK is, so.
Yeah, I was definitely going to have at least one. I'm sure that there's more than one in there, but like inaccuracy or something, because the universe is huge. Yes. I did in middle school. I was like very into reading some of the Han Solo origin story books and things like that. And just trying to go back and look everything up was like, it turns into like a mountain, and I'm a Star Wars fan, but it's not, I'm not putting it on my bio necessarily.
Yes.
And there are people out there who are far more knowledgeable. Actually, I'm so curious to hear if you guys have anything else that stood out.
No, that's the first thing I noticed. I'm like, well, it's a biker scout, it's a TB, but that's okay. No, I thought, also like the weapons. What did you use for the weapons? Like his blaster, what did you use? What was that?
Yeah, so we actually did. I had someone that I went to high school with, and I knew just from our time in high school. It had been almost a decade at that point, but you're super into Star Wars. I know that you still are through Facebook. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, do you have any resources? And he pointed me to the 501st, and we sort of started circling around there, the forums and some of the platforms there, and then got in touch with someone who is a member of the 501st and makes cosplay costumes. Yeah. So we ordered some pieces to be made, and then our producer, who's also a very legitimate costume designer, he then assembled and then made the jumpsuit and sewed the pockets, and like he did everything else himself, which was super cool. Yeah. And then we reached out to another person who makes replica weapons for the 501st, and we got what was the ankle blaster for the Scout Trooper and his main blaster. But I believe that there was something I requested that something was slightly different, not like a standard issue. I don't know if that ended up happening necessarily, but I wanted it to feel big and substantial, because he loses it and then it comes back, and it's a very big deal, because the big conversation was how competent is this Scout Trooper? And I was like, I want him to be like the platoon leader, but a platoon leader Scout Trooper is not the best trooper in the world. So that's sort of like where some of those things come in. So we had that. And then when it came down to the Rebel blasters, we just found other things that weren't custom made inside the Star Wars universe for budgetary reasons. But
well, but at the same time, you didn't do a lot of close-up shots of those. Yeah, so you can get away with anything, like a Nerf gun or anything.
I think with the there were two rebels, and there's one who's pretty featured, and then the other one who just gets wrapped around the tree. That's actually the writer, Charlie. He was like, I gotta be in it. I want to wear a rebel costume. Nice. And his I think was just a spray painted Nerf gun, but like you just see him through some trees, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the movie magic, you know, like you don't need to know all that stuff, but obviously that you featured his blaster up close, you need to make sure that it's somewhat accurate, you know, so.
Oh yeah. But
I was just gonna say, I really, like we kind of see that in Force Awakens where we actually get Finn that's kind of humanized. And I really do like that. There's a lot of story there as far as like an Imperial person, like following orders and doing that kind of thing. And I really do like how you did a slow introduction and kind of humanizing a trooper, on its own. I thought that was really well done.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that was like a big goal and what we constantly were talking about. Yeah. So I'm glad it came across
exactly.
that way.
Yeah. Aaron, you got any other questions?
Well, I'd like to ask you a few questions about the sound design. So,
yeah.
What can you tell
Aaron's
me about that?
Resident sounder. So,
so we shot a traditional production audio. Someone there shooting or recording. He's a collaborator. His name's Jeff Gallmer. He's fantastic. Actually, when we brought this to the final sound mix, our sound mixer was like, who did the location sound in this squeaky uniform? Like, this is crazy. So it was really cool. We knew we were in good hands with him, but really we worked with someone who was a recommendation of our editor, and his name was Michael Suarez, and he mixes and designs big movies. And we got very lucky. He had some time, and we waited a couple of weeks for him to be available when we were trying to find some other folks who we worked with, but they were like, we had a string of things with VFX and with sound where someone really wanted to do it because they were looking to show what they can do. But in the time we were shooting or editing the film, by the time we got to them, we're good to go. They were like, I actually just got the dream job and I can't split my time. Which is amazing. So you're so excited for your friends, but also too, you're like, what happened to my free VFX, man? And so that was happening to us a little bit. And then we got in touch with Michael, and he was like, I'm just a big Star Wars fan. We had just enough money to make it worth his time on the weekends. And he was awesome. It's actually, the Vimeo version is not, but I have a 5.1 mix of it. And it is awesome. It is. I don't have 5.1 at home or anything, but in the sound mixing suite, it was just very crazy to be like, whoa, this is the film, and it had been colored, and this was the last thing we had to do, and it all just came together right there. Yeah.
Nice.
Right on. So did you end up using a standard library? Did you end up recording new effects?
We used a standard library for most things. So as a part of the Fan Film Awards, Disney and Lucasfilm were providing a bunch of archive sound effects.
I didn't know that.
And I would log in as though I was going to compete every year and then just download the new library that they provided. And by the end of that, we had a lot of stuff. And, it's all royalty free. It's out there to use. You're supposed to use it for the Fan Film Awards, but
if you want to
pick up the layered blaster sounds and try and let us know that we infringed on your copyright, that's totally cool, Disney. I respect you, but
right, respect.
So we had a lot of that, and then our editor Vincent, he has been a fan of lots of different parts of the Star Wars universe. So that's where you see, I believe it's Knights of the Old Republic is a lot of the music that we used.
I was about to ask about that. Yes.
Yeah. And,
I noticed that too.
Yeah. I believe actually one of the tracks was also used, but I could be just a little confused. Something sounded really similar. I used to play Dark Forces back in the day. It was very cool to hear those sounds come together. Some of them were new to me because I had not watched Knights of the Old Republic, and it was just really, really awesome. You might hear like a crane or an airplane or something in there. I tried to find them without the sound effects, and then, but I think one ended up sneaking in. So, yeah.
What can you do?
At a certain point, you're like, I got to put this out.
Right, right, exactly. So like, okay, so give us the timeline. So you said when did you actually film it? And then to post-production and to actually release it in September, like how kind of give us that little timeline as far as from inception to final product. It seemed like it's taking a long time.
When you're completely self-funding, meaning you don't have money, that things go slowly. Things go really slowly. And at certain points, it was my fault. I would just be too busy with work, basically trying to afford the next round of whatever needed to happen. But
sure.
So we ended up working on the idea, I think technically late, like December 2015-ish. And then we developed the script. We basically had it ready by March. It was shoot ready, but schedules didn't line up. We tried to shoot it in late April, and then we tried to shoot it in May. And then we're like, you know what? No matter what happens, we're shooting it this week of June. So we shot it then. We got rained out of one day. We had to send some people back to New York. We had to ship more people back up who could, because they had work and we had to like ship them over. So we shot it. And then I was excited about the project. I basically got back to where I was living in Rhode Island at the time and just did a cut in like 2 days. So we had a cut. It was, and I had gone through a pretty rigorous process of actually storyboarding the whole thing, but I'm really bad at drawing. So I ended up just, I bought action figures, Star Wars action figures. And then I took pictures in my front yard and I shot the entire story with action figures and like a candle to be the fire and like a metal bowl to be like the overlook. And, so I had that to go back to. And, when it came to editing, it was just slotting the pieces in, but then, the real hard work begins. And that's when I brought on Vincent. He took over in about August. He was like done with it within, 2 weeks, working in his spare time. So he's super good. And then we started the process of trying to get VFX done. And that's when it turned into like, I had a buddy, he started doing some sky replacements. He started working on universes, and then he got sort of his dream job, and then he thought he'd have time, and then he didn't. And then, then it's like 8 months later and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? So luckily Josh knew some people from College Humor who started their VFX company off of them. They were so gracious and were like, we will absolutely take it on. There were 52 VFX shots in it. It doesn't feel like it, but it's the blaster scene is like, there are a lot of cuts. So then they were like, listen, we're going to give you a realistic deadline. This was going to take us 10 months because we have to do it when work is not happening. And whenever you let time, like a week or two go, you forget where you were. You don't know your layers. So they were like, and we were like, okay. They're like, but we guarantee you we'll deliver it on that day. And they delivered it like 2 months early or whatever to us. Yeah, and then it was just like just trying to find the sound, and then all of a sudden it's August 2018, and I have this finished. I was traveling and I'd gotten the sound files, but I couldn't sync them yet, and then I put them together, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, should we just put this out tomorrow?" All right, let's do it. So that's how that ended up happening.
Oh wow! So there wasn't really like a plan, like we need to get this out like on this date or anything like that, or
we had reached out to a couple of people. Someone who I had worked with at College Humor used to be kind of tight with the Force.net people back when it was a little bit more of a central hub. And so he reached out and they were like, we were like, should we do a planned thing? And he was like, just, when you just shoot me a link when you have it and we'll post it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And people were trying to get features or exclusive. And I was like, let's put it up.
It's too much.
Let's just put it online. And honestly, it was supposed to go on YouTube because Star Wars content goes way better there. But their encoder was broken that night, and it.
Okay.
Oh no!
The first shot, I was up until sunrise, just re-uploading like 30 different codec combinations and this, and it would just the sky would just pixelate in the whole opening shot in every resolution, and I just couldn't do anything about it, and it wasn't on the file, so I had a perfect version on Vimeo, and I was like, I like Vimeo better as a community anyway. And then
So take that, YouTube.
And then of course we got so lucky because then we got a staff pick, and then everyone picked it up, and that's kind of the front to back of it.
Yeah, like, so how does that work? So you upload it on Vimeo, and then somebody saw it from Vimeo, and then they just kind of highlight it and say, I like this.
Totally. I have a little bit. So College Humor used to be owned by the same company that owns Vimeo. So I actually know a lot of the folks over there. Admittedly, this is the first project I've gotten a staff pick on, and it's the first project that I did not reach out to them to ask to consider for a staff pick. So
nice.
They, one or two of the people over there happen to follow me on Vimeo anyway, but they follow like thousands of people. So they log in. It's just a wall of videos that they're supposed to look at.
Sure.
And if something intrigues them, all they do is they just sort of bookmark it and send it to the other folks. And they all just get in a room and say, do we like this? Do we feel like this embodies what Vimeo is about? And do we think that it's like trying to push something forward, whether it's a social agenda or fandom or just art? So, and I had no idea. And then you just receive, really what happened is I received like a phone disabling amount of notifications from my Vimeo app. Like comment, like, and then I was like, what is happening? And then I got an email, my email refreshed like a minute later, and they're like, congratulations, you got a staff pick. And we got like, we got like the overnight spot. So it's like the last video. So it's the first thing to pop up on Apple TV. It's the first thing to pop up on whatever. And that was really nice. So part of their other thing is, would people like this even if we didn't staff pick it? Would they watch it anyway? So that's a big thing. So you have to be getting enough views on your own. So we just like pulled all the punches with our social medias, and we're like, all right, I'm going to post now. You post in an hour. Like,
and honestly, that's how social media now works. It's like you just have to constantly get up there and put yourself out there. But that's great, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
Did you ever figure out what that codec problem was with YouTube, or did you just give up?
I tried uploading it a day later. It was perfect. And I tried uploading other videos. I tried adding new like mats around the sky just to like see if there's one part that like I changed the saturation a half a point and it'll go away.
Right.
Still have no idea. And I left one of those up there and it's still broken. Like it didn't re-encode, but the one I uploaded a day later worked perfect. The one I had uploaded 2 hours prior worked perfect, but then I had one credit change. Then I went to go upload it and it didn't work anymore. So anyway,
bizarre.
It was serendipitous. And then
it's like it's H.264. It's like 15 years old.
Oh yeah. It's I've worked in like post-production uploading videos, and like never once in my life have I seen that. So you know what? Thank you, YouTube encoder. I'm so happy to be on Vimeo and have the staff pick. So
right. No, it was a blessing in disguise for sure. Wow. Well, that was great. So what are you working on? What kind of, do you have any fun projects you could share of like what's coming up next for you or anything?
Yeah, totally.
In the hopper?
Yeah. I mean, I shot like 3 or 4 other shorts this year. I mean, I do my constant like branded work, but I'm working on a project with Josh right now. It's going to be feature length, and it's sort of in comedy horror space. And we're hoping to maybe get the cameras rolling by the end of the year. So that's, I wish I could have some like more big splash info for you guys, but that's,
that's cool.
Teaser trailer, sizzle reel.
Or like who's going to be the co-star? We're trying to figure that out still. So
Now, that project, the comedy horror project, is that something that you have collaborated and written together, or are you just doing something? You're gonna help out with somebody else's project?
Oh yeah, so Josh is gonna. So he wrote it. I helped him develop the story a little bit, but he was like, I just got to get the story out, and I helped him sort of like, unplug the cork and let the water flow. And then it was like, go do it. So he wrote that. He's gonna direct it, and he's also gonna star in it. I'm producing and I'm going to shoot it. So my big thing is helping him get what he needs throughout the whole process. And having done this short and a couple other before, like make it like a very good situation.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Well, it sounds like you're pretty seasoned, so you kind of know what to do now. It's live by fire, right?
You always think you are until something new happens, and then you're like, oh, I don't know anything. So we'll see.
Right. Exactly. Well, great. I really appreciate you sharing that experience, because I mean, again, I feel like in that 10-minute space, you definitely tell a very tight and concise story, which is key. in a short film as well as in Star Wars space. It's kind of hard to pull all that off, and I really did enjoy this film.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Aaron, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just thank you for. I realize the professional world is it's crazy out there, but it's really cool that you're able to see this kind of personal project through, and skirt around the law a little bit to make it happen in a few places.
Yeah, I was hoping that if anyone from there would see it, they'd be like, "All right, it doesn't really make us mad, so we'll just let it be." So like that's the best I can hope for.
Yeah, right. You know that park attendant at that cave was like, I remember seeing those kids there.
I like to think they turned a blind eye.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Since we're a Star Wars podcast, like, what is your favorite Star Wars film?
Oh man. I mean, the one for most rewatchability is just A New Hope for me. Okay. It feels like a little bit of like a given answer.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, visually, it's somewhere between. I'm a big fan of Bradford Young, who shot Solo. And I thought that's if you combined Rogue One and Solo, you'd have a totally new universe look and feel. I mean, but there was a period of my life where I would have answered this Return of the Jedi, and that period of my life is over. And it is gone. I just like the Ewoks. So
okay, all right. See, there we go. So that one's for Heather. For Heather.
Yep, you're in good company.
Yeah, you're in good company. If you want to do an Ewok feature film, that would be something.
Like the Christmas special, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Solo, because I feel like he did such a good job as far as like it goes from dark to like really light. And that progression is just really cool visually, I think. And you get that real Western vibe throughout the whole thing. And I think that's how they shot it is pretty spectacular.
Absolutely. And I know that there were troubles with who was helming it and things like that, but the consistent voice of, Bradford Young. And I'm sure that there were a lot of people over his shoulder talking, but I feel like you can see his work really shine there when they're, playing the famous game. With Lando, and it's just like, to me, that's a stunning scene. So I had a lot of fun watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially when you got like a bunch of aliens, and it's like kind of like your Casino Royale kind of picture, but it's in this rustic environment. It looks really good. It looks really good. Yeah. And Rogue One, I think Rogue One, like that space battle is probably one of the best space battles in Star Wars. How they pull it off. And to me, it's got that 70s vibe to it because it's tied so closely to New Hope, which is, like you just said, is so near and dear to everyone's heart. But it's modern, and that it works. It just like works. They still got that. Get that A New Hope vibe, but it's like modern and it kind of really plays well.
I definitely agree with that look, and those scenes I thought were cool to connect the sky with the ground, which rarely happens outside of like things exploding, which I thought was cool in that battle.
Oh wow, yeah. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you don't really see that. Yeah. It's either space or ground, right? Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Should we go to news of the week?
We shall.
All right.
And now, the Star Wars news of the week.
Let's see what we have today. So, this is from Dork Side of the Force. We've got
great name.
Great name. Thank you. Jon Favreau's upcoming live-action Star Wars series will soon begin filming in an undisclosed location. Ooh,
what?
Very cloak and dagger. So,
right.
Earlier this year, Disney announced it would be producing a new TV series set in the Star Wars universe. But reports are coming out that they're about to begin. So, how about that?
Soon.
Yeah. So, according to Making Star Wars, Disney's untitled live-action Star Wars series is supposed to start filming next week. So, we have some set photos from an undisclosed location. They look like it's a coastal location, could be Tatooine, could be another planet.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so Favreau, the director of, was he director or producer of Iron Man?
No, he directed Iron Man.
He directed.
Yeah, he directed.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's going to write and direct the series. It will be on Disney Flix. So,
Disney Play or whatever they're calling it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
What do you? So, Brendan, do you? I mean, what do you think about them actually finally doing like a live action show?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it's hard taking over any sort of big franchise that has existed.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love new interesting stories. I think it's cool. I have a collaborator I work with who was like excited for Ben Affleck Batman because they're like, we already saw like the Christian Bale, like the dark gritty version. Like, let's get weird.
Yeah.
Like, let's try new things. And though sometimes you end up hating the product, like the process is interesting. I'm a fan of Jon Favreau's, so I'm really interested to see how it turns out. But I just can't imagine that they have writers working to create like totally original, thought out content this quickly. So that's my only concern.
Yeah. Right. Well, the budget's $100 million.
Do you know how many episodes? Like 8 or something?
I think it's like 10 or 12.
Whoa.
So it's kind of
that's higher than I think. That might be higher than Game of Thrones, which had the highest average episode cost.
Yeah, so Game of Thrones, it's right in between Game of Thrones and Stranger Things, because I think Stranger Things was right around there as well. So they're throwing some good money at it, and obviously, as you know, a lot of that money just goes to the special effects, but it's also set design and getting all that. I mean, there's a lot of budget that, $100 million. I mean, it seems like a lot, but it's
one thing you can do. I feel like that you can do, and everyone will be like, at least they tried. Is just go practical when you can. Like, I know everyone says it, but like, if you do that, at least I'll be like, oh wow, I really like that thing over there that I know is real. And like, at the very least, even if the story's bad, I'll like the droids,
Well, I mean, I don't want to get too much of a tangent, but that's kind of like where people have a lot of problems with what George did with the prequels, because there was a lot more green screen than necessary, even though he did use a lot of miniatures and all that kind of stuff. He definitely pushed the envelope there, but it felt in some shots it was all green screen. It's like, could you use a real set,
I definitely like George Lucas for doing that to those movies, but also thank you so much for pushing the advent of digital filmmaking, because I would not have a job without it. So
it kind of goes both ways. I mean, because again, it goes both ways. I mean,
there's a light side and dark side to the Force.
That's right. The prequels. I mean, the prequels use more models than all the original trilogy, and in fact, Phantom Menace has the most models combined of the 3 original films. It's got a ton of models, but the problem is like, I think it's the acting part where it's, they're at a green screen and they're not. That's a green square that is supposed to be a couch, or like those kind of things. Like there weren't a lot of real sets, but a lot of the bigger sets were actually miniatures. So
I didn't know that.
People are like, oh, it's all green screen. I'm like, no, I mean, he used like my favorite part is like the library scene in Attack of Clones. That's an actual miniature set. He used a lot of miniature sets and then just imposed the actors in it. I was like, whoa. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's cool. But the prequels do get a little bad rap. So, all right. Next up, Star Wars lead producer Kathleen Kennedy is not going away. She got a new deal. This was reported in the Hollywood Reporter. She got another 3-year deal through 2021. So all those people that said like she is going to be fired, well, Disney likes her and Lucasfilm likes her enough that she's going to keep around for another 3 years. Take that, YouTube haters. Do you think
most of the haters are on Twitter, to be honest?
What's that?
I think most of the haters are on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true. But there's those YouTubers that like have these huge conspiracies of why they're keeping her around or whatever. But
those like 20-minute video essays.
Yeah,
that kind of ramble around the point.
Right. So I guess, Brendan, this question is for you. Like, do you think she saved the franchise or helped get the franchise back to where it's at?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
I know.
I think that there's a lot of weight on her shoulders in specific, taking over a company that was not hers, sort of absorbing it and then trying to figure out who to hand the keys to. And then I think once sort of decisions started getting made, everyone got so nervous that everyone's micromanaging and like looking over each other's shoulder. And I don't know. I think if we look back at this time, like in the Star Wars world, and are like, wow, we got a chance to expand and make things more interesting, and maybe we'll get like a super, super, super dark version, and maybe we'll get like really comedically light versions that are just like fun kids shows, or maybe they're not, maybe they're for adults too. I think that's interesting. I mean, I think if you're trying for everything to be canon in this world now, it's going to be really hard. So I think keeping storylines straight without restricting it to the rigidity of like the Marvel universe. I think if they can figure out that balance, then then at least I'll be a happy customer. I still enjoy it. I still get those feelings. Maybe I don't get it as consistently movie to movie, but like, also I still get to see like Woody Harrelson play, like a professional thief in the Star Wars universe. So like, amazing. Like that sounds cool.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? No, that's true. I mean, it's a great IP. You got this great, you have a lot of ways to go, and sometimes I feel like they're restricting themselves, and hopefully they learn enough now to get that to the next level. And like you said, it's kind of expand. Like you want to go dark and, kind of want to go, rom-com or something like that. That's fine too. But, you want to try to have that balance and still respect the
I
IP
think that the sooner we get away from the characters that we've seen for years and years and made up into something in our head that might not have been there on the screen originally, the better, except Donald Glover as Lando. I'm a big fan. I know not everyone is, but I'm a very, very big fan of his performances. So.
All right. So you kind of brought it up. So I was just going to say.
The way I like to put it is, I think we've had enough of the Skywalker soap opera. We can probably put that in a box, put it back on the shelf, and move on to some better things.
Yeah, I have to bring it up because we kind of brought it up earlier. What are your thoughts on Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi?
I just rewatched it like 2 weeks ago. I still feel like certain parts of the movie, I'm like, yes, this is what was always needed. And certain parts of the movie, I just don't feel fit. And it's more on a scene to scene basis. If I were to make a judgment on the overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I think what happens towards the end really pushes you in a certain direction that's trying to say we're going to get away from things. And certain scenes I thought were just really well done, even if maybe I'm ignoring some of like the exact rules of the universe, which I'm usually a real stickler for. So it's hard. I thought that specifically the when Kylo Ren is sort of just, I don't know. I just really like a lot of the different scenes that happened. But I equally have a couple of groan moments that I know were intended to be groan inducing, or at least bring those up, but like enough floating rocks and then saying things while they're happening on screen. Those are my two things, but I don't know.
No, it's good. I just, because I mean, personally, I think visually it looks fantastic. It's like,
it's Steve Yedlin is a fantastic DP. He's been Rian Johnson's DP forever, and he's just he really took this one on.
I think it looks fantastic, and like I said, I mean, there's a lot of controversy, and like Aaron said earlier, it's kind of like taking the Skywalker saga and putting it on the shelf is probably a good thing, but like at the same time, it kind of blows everything up, and I think that's where people kind of get rubbed the wrong way about the whole picture, in itself. So.
Yeah, I think going back to the point about like, are they sort of helming it correctly from like the big picture scenario? I think they looked at a world where they couldn't return to Star Wars and not tell the stories of the people that you know and love, for 6 films. Yeah. But they also were like, well, we need to quickly get out of it because George isn't in the room.
Right.
So they decided to do it all in under 2 movies.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
you got to slow that down just a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously it's hundreds of millions of dollars and, you know, staking the future of the franchise on it. But I wish that they had maybe made a more concise choice and stuck to it the whole way.
Yeah.
Even if they would have been hated for it. So
interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Well, and I guess the other part of it too is like, it's the second act and we still haven't seen the third act. So you might have JJ might come back and they write it in such a way that everything kind of makes it happen. But it's kind of hard to totally judge it. But as a film, you could still say, okay, there's some really good points, and then there's obviously those grown moments like, ugh, why is that here? You know?
Yeah, I thought those would go away a little bit, but they really haven't for me. And not that I'm comparing it to Empire, but I don't think Empire was anyone's favorite movie on first watch. I think when they rewatch the trilogy, they're like, whoa, Empire has it all for me. And it gets pretty serious and there are interesting things that happen. But on first watch, you're like, what is like a little bit of like this sort of like whole it's just reveal after reveal and things. So
no, that's true. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what episode 9 brings. But appreciate your input. So people were saying that they're slowing down. So obviously this last week we had Solo home release. They just announced a Vader Immortal announced, which is basically a VR short film where you get the helm as the Dark Lord of the Sith himself, and they're going to be kind of story driven, and you get to do it in a VR space. So if you wanted to be Darth Vader, it's coming up. Then we got just like I said, the 3-year extension from Kennedy, and then Adam Driver was on SNL. Resistance, the cartoon, is premiering next week. And then the Favreau series is beginning principles photography, as Aaron just said. It's going to happen in next week, so not really slowing down too much in the Star Wars space. But yeah, it's happening. So this last week, SNL just opened up, and Adam Driver did a very nice, hilarious monologue where he tried to refrain himself from going all Kylo Ren on the cast members. And they're kind of talking about the summer break, and all the SNL cast was trying to interrupt him as he was trying to explain what was going on in episode 9. At one point, Driver even tried to reveal where the real Ewoks live, but it was unfortunately interrupted yet again. Those silly SNL cast members, but it was a fun little monologue that Adam Driver did, and trying to kind of reveal the much hushed episode 9 plot points that no one can break out from London. But basically, he's shooting that. He also just shot a film with Spike Lee, Black Klansman. So that's Adam Driver is kicking butt. And obviously, for me personally, that's probably one of the best things about this new sequel trilogy is Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. I think
he's the amazing man. I just want more Matt, the radar technician from the SNL Undercover Boss sketch.
Oh, dude, best sketch. That's one of my favorite sketches. I thought it's well shot. And it looks like Star Wars. And they actually did, I don't know if you know this, but they actually did get from Lucasfilm, they actually got it's the full blown Kylo outfit. Whoa. And some stormtroopers. So yeah, they went all out for it. And in fact, because he was hosting, they did SNL just released like a behind the scenes shots of them doing the short. And you have to check it out. It's super fun because he's all in character, and then he can't keep a straight face, and it's a lot of fun kind of seeing. It's always fun seeing those kind of bloopers and that kind of thing. So that's awesome. All right, so we have the section called Cantina Chat. So this section, Brendan, is just like anything geeky going on. So I know you just literally shot a whole Star Wars film, but if you got anything geeky going on, do you got anything going on this week?
Not really. A lot of my life is pretty much caught up in tech details, working with cameras and things like that. I'm trying to get better surround sound in my apartment. Maybe that's so I'm researching speakers, and boy, the world of audiophiles goes deep.
Yes.
And I'm like crazy about the visuals, but at least there's like certain standards you can't get away from.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And the money that you can spend is astronomical.
Yeah. Right. Or you could buy, a pretty decent sound bar and you're just like, all right, I'm calling it a day. Hook it up to the TV and it's like that, but
discrete channels, Todd. Discrete channels.
I'm sorry.
Todd, a sound bar.
Right. We're talking like 7.1, 8.1, we're just going to go all out, Like, yeah. Have you got any closer to making the purchase, or you're just you're in the research part?
Just the research part.
Okay.
I'm totally using an old like Bose system that they're not like super fantastic, but they're pretty good like starter sets up. My brother had one. It broke. I took it apart. I resoldered a couple parts. It kind of works. The center channel moves through the rear left channel, and like you have to rewire it correctly. But the difference between the action sounds and the dialogue sounds from movies that I've seen in theaters is so different that it's like, I can't do this anymore. I have to change it. And that's like the brattiest thing I can say. But I work in the industry. I'm going to say I have to have it. So
right, exactly.
Just say it's part of your job.
Exactly. Trust me, I got all sorts of stuff that is part of my job.
Right. I must research this. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If I must research this.
They're going to be like, "What the heck are you doing here?"
Aaron, what's going on with you, man? Anything geeky going on this week?
Yeah, we continued on a bit in our Star Wars RPG on campus, so that was a lot of fun.
There you go.
And I don't know if this counts as geeky, but I'm part of a student group on campus that produces radio dramas, and so we're doing a bit on this series called Freeze Brain Coffee and Tea, which is essentially like Adventures in Odyssey meets Doctor Who. It's like this. It's like this coffee shop that's trapped in a bubble of time and space, and you have different characters from different locations throughout history just kind of run into each other and shenanigans ensue. Yeah. So
that's great. Are they all coffee aficionados?
Well, George Washington might like his chai latte.
Who knew?
Yeah, but we're working on season 3 this semester. So Saturday was the big recording day.
Cool.
I was able to work with my boss at the radio station, and we were able to use a couple of the studios all day. So we were recording from 7:30 in the morning until 10:30 at night is when we wrapped up. Yeah. They're like 9 episodes to do. I scheduled out an hour and a half per, with an hour for lunch and dinner. Yeah, and we just blew through it all. So nice. We didn't get everybody recorded, but vast majority. And just Brendan, I'm sure you can relate. Long days like that, it's its own kind of reward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm behind camera. I don't like to perform for that long. So
yeah. Well, I think that's, some people don't really know that, is like, it is really long days, right? I mean, like you said, you hiked up a mountain for what, like 3 shots that took like what, how many seconds, a film?
Yeah. In the whole piece, it's weirdly long. It's like a minute, but I spent an entire day just getting that. So
right. Yeah. Right. And then like when you're on like a big Hollywood set, I mean, like, it's like all this setup time for a couple minutes of shooting, and some of the shoots that I'm on, I have to remind people, remember guys, it's 2 to 3 hours to the first shot is like how long it takes in a day, especially for commercial work. But it takes a village to make anything, I think, artistic, even if it's just you doing 1,000 things. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, kudos, Aaron, for sticking out a whole day and getting that almost all done, dude. That's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. For me, I picked up the Solo movie last week, so got to watch that again and again, and kind of went through some of the deleted scenes and kind of got through that a little bit. But I just, like Brendan said, I think it's shot so good, and just seeing more and more. I saw this link on the internet, and so I went down a rabbit hole and just kind of all the references that they used from other films. It kind of gets you excited about film again when you kind of see those things like, oh yeah, they shot, they referenced this here, and that's the reason that you see this, and some of the design choices go into what you see on film. It makes me happy. It makes me happy. Like, even though people might say it's not really that good of a film, but seeing a lot of the references that they did use, it's great. So yeah, that's what I did this week. It was good. It's good. All right, moving right along, we have Twitter Trash Compactor.
Get in there, you big boy! I don't care what you smell. Get in there and don't worry about it.
All right, so this section is about what we talked about last week. So we put up a poll. Which deleted scene would you have wanted to see on the film? So we had 4 choices because that's all Twitter allows. And the first was Luke's hand in space. So Brendan, if you weren't aware of this, The Force Awakens was supposed to open up with Luke's severed hand floating in space with a lightsaber.
It's an idea I can't believe got to storyboarding, but it's I want to see a cut now.
Yeah. It's just so crazy it might work.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, but I was so I wanted to know anything that was going on, and some of the leaked scripts, that was the opening shot. It was pretty far along before they probably not shouldn't open with a severed hand in space, so.
I feel like that's one of those ideas where they're like, we need something to connect it. We need something cool. What's going to be really catch their attention? And then you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then a while down the road, you're like, I like the idea of the idea. Let's use the idea. Let's figure out some other way to do that.
Right, exactly.
It's like the opening of Scanners when he blows up the dude's head. It's like, whoa, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. That's a hard open. That's a hard cut, So, we were joking around. It's like, you thought people lost, we lost people on Last Jedi. If they opened up with Luke's severed hand in Force Awakens, they might have lost a lot more people, So that got 0 votes. No one wanted to see that. Han knows Finn's secret, which is basically a little bit more detail of how Han found out Finn was actually a stormtrooper for the First Order. And then, yeah, they wanted to expand on that a little bit more. Qui-Gon Jinn talks to Yoda in Revenge of the Sith. That was a mention, but they were actually going to film that a little bit more. And then finally, C-3PO and the Wampas, where C-3PO does a tactical choice and says, hey, go in this room, stormtroopers. And there's a lot of Wampas just waiting for you. The one that won the most was Han knows Finn's secret. That would have been a little bit cool to see that on film. So there you go. Yeah, there's just that Brendan was just basically Han kind of being street savvy and kind of noticing Finn is basically wearing an undersuit with a jacket and the boots. And they basically said that they were going to show Han looking at Finn's boots and realizing that's First Order boots and not.
Oh, does he not scan him at one point? I thought that he did. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
no, but just a little bit more detail about Han kind of putting things together, and that the audience is going along with that. Han figured it out too.
Got it.
Yeah. So there you go. But yeah, so we'll be doing that every week. So please look at Twitter and all that fun stuff for those polls. All right, Aaron, you want to wrap us up?
Let's go for it. Thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access. Once again, you can check us out on social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. We want to hear from you, so please comment, tweet, rate us on iTunes, email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com, or leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. Leave us a voicemail, and we can play it on an upcoming podcast. For next week, mail us, call in, tweet us, leave scathing comments anywhere you please, but tell us about your favorite Star Wars celebration. You can catch all our episodes at www.wstrmedia.com. And we got merch, teespring.com/stores/WSTR Media. Brendan, where can everybody find you on the socials?
I try to make it easy. It's Brendan H. Banks. That's on Instagram and Twitter, and I've got a website as well. It's just mostly what I do. just behind the scenes and like stories on Instagram are behind the scenes, and the things I post are stills from what I shoot. So that's about it.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That is fantastic.
It's fantastic to have a website that actually just kind of shows what you do.
And on my Instagram, I have a highlight story that is everything. When we're releasing the film, I posted all the storyboards I shot. I posted everyone's credits, all that stuff. So it's super fun if you're interested in learning more.
Oh, fun. I was just gonna say I wanted to see the action figure shots, I would love to see the storyboards.
They're all up there on Instagram, and feel free to check them out. My amazing girlfriend actually did a side by side with some of the storyboard shots with what made the final cut. So, yeah,
amazing.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for joining us on the podcast this week.
Yeah,
thank you guys for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, now you know all the ways to get a hold of us. Next week for episode 92, we've got Danny and Kristen from Kessel Run Weekly, who will be joining us to talk about Star Wars Celebration. So stay tuned.
The good, the bad, and the ugly of Star Wars Celebration. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Todd, I think you know how to end a podcast.
Yes, I do.
Now this is podcasting. We did it.
We did it.